Let's read my followers' stories.
In the heart of a serene and timeless village called Granpa, where the early morning mist kissed the dewy grass and the evening sun bathed everything in a golden hue, lived an old man named Granpa. He was a figure of quiet strength and deep wisdom. His hair as white as the clouds that floated in the clear blue sky. His eyes, soft and kind, held within them a world of stories and experiences that spanned many lifetimes. Granpa's cottage, made of sun-baked clay and roofed with thatch, was perched on the edge of the village, near a grove of ancient banyan trees. These trees were massive, their roots twisting and turning like the old man's tails, their branches reaching out as if to embrace the heavens. The villagers often said that the trees grew so strong and tall because they had been blessed by Granpa himself. Every morning, as the first rays of sunlight peeked over the horizon, Granpa would sit on a wooden bench outside his cottage. This bench, carved by his own hands many years ago, was smooth from the countless hours he had spent there. From this spot, he would watch as the village awoke to a new day. The roosters would crow, the farmers would begin their work in the fields, and the children would run down the paths, laughing and playing. It was a tradition in Granpa that anyone who had a problem, a worry, or even just a desire for good fortune, would visit Granpa for his blessing. And so, as the day began, people from all walks of life would come to see him. One cool morning, just as the first light touched the tops of the banyan trees, a young boy named Arun approached Granpa. Arun was a lively child, always full of energy and mischief, but lately, he had been troubled. He had heard whispers from the villagers that he was too wild, too uncontrollable. It made him feel like he didn't belong. As Arun neared the bench, he hesitated, suddenly unsure. But Granpa's kind eyes met his, and the old man beckoned him closer with a gentle smile. "Come, Aaron," Granpa said, his voice warm and inviting, like the sun after a long winter. "What brings you here so early, my boy?" Arun shuffled his feet, looking down at the ground. "Grandpa, do you think I can be good? People say I'm always causing trouble." Granpa chuckled softly, his laugh a low, comforting rumble. "Aaron, my dear child, goodness isn't something you find outside of yourself. It's something that lives inside you, waiting to be nurtured. Sometimes, it just needs a little guidance to grow." The old man reached out and placed his hand on Aaron's head, his touch as light as a feather. He closed his eyes and whispered a blessing, one that spoke of inner strength, kindness, and the courage to be oneself. As he did, Arun felt a warmth spread through him, a feeling of peace and calm that he had never known before. "Go now, and remember what I've said," Granpa told him with a smile. "You have a good heart, Arun. Let it lead you." Arun left that day with a new sense of purpose. Over the weeks that followed, he began to change. The wildness that once defined him softened, and he found himself more in tune with the world around him. He started helping his mother with chores, carrying water from the well, and gathering firewood without being asked. He even began to take care of a small vegetable garden, nurturing the plants with the same care he had received from Granpa. One day, as he was working in the garden, Arun came across a small bird with a broken wing. The old Arun might have ignored it, or even teased it, but the new Arun carefully picked up the bird and brought it home. He built a small nest for it and nursed it back to health, feeding it and protecting it until it was strong enough to fly again. When the day came to release the bird back into the wild, Arun felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He watched as it soared into the sky, its wings strong and free, and he knew that he had done something truly good. The villagers, too, began to notice the change in him. They saw the kindness in his actions, the gentleness in his words, and they began to speak of him with respect and admiration. As the seasons passed, more and more people came to seek Granpa's blessings. There was Mina, a young woman who had recently lost her parents in a tragic accident. Overwhelmed with grief, she came to Granpa with tears streaming down her face, unsure of how to move forward. Granpa listened to her story with great compassion. When she finished, he took her hands in his own and said, "Mina, life can be unbearably hard at times, but remember that you are never truly alone. Your parents' love will always be with you, guiding you. You have a strength within you that you have yet to discover. May you find that strength, and may love and light guide your path." Mina left Granpa's cottage with a heart lighter than when she had arrived. She found solace in his words and began to rebuild her life. With the support of the villagers, who rallied around her, she opened a small shop that became the heart of the village. It was more than just a place to buy goods. It was a gathering spot where people came to share stories, laughter, and comfort. Grandpa Bala's blessing seemed to ripple through the village like a stone dropped in a still pond. Each person who received one found their lives touched in profound ways. And as more people sought his wisdom, the village itself began to flourish. The fields yielded more bountiful harvests, families grew closer, and a deep sense of community spread throughout Riper. Even those from neighboring villages began to hear of Grandpa Bala's blessings. One day, a farmer named Ramesh, who lived in a nearby village, decided to visit Riper. Ramesh had fallen on hard times. His crops had failed for 2 years in a row, and he was on the brink of losing his land. Desperate and with nowhere else to turn, he made the long journey to see Grandpa Bala. When he arrived, Ramesh found Grandpa Bala sitting on his bench, just as the sun was beginning to set. The old man greeted him with the same warmth he showed everyone, and Ramesh immediately felt a sense of calm wash over him. "What troubles you, my friend?" Grandpa Bala asked. Ramesh poured out his heart, explaining how his crops had failed despite all his efforts. He spoke of the sleepless nights he had spent worrying about his family's future, and how he felt as though the earth itself had turned against him. Grandpa Bala listened carefully, nodding as Ramesh spoke. When he finished, the old man took a deep breath and said, "The earth is like a mirror, Ramesh. It reflects what we give it. Sometimes, it takes more than hard work. It takes faith, patience, and a little bit of love. I cannot promise you that your crops will thrive, but I can promise you that if you tend to your land with care and respect, the earth will remember your kindness." With that, Grandpa Bala placed his hand on Ramesh's head and whispered a blessing for the earth to be bountiful once more. Ramesh returned to his village, carrying Grandpa Bala's words in his heart. He began to treat his land not as a tool, but as a living being. He nurtured it with the same care he had seen in Grandpa Bala's garden, and to his amazement, his crops began to grow stronger and healthier than ever before. By the end of the season, his fields were full, and his farm became the most prosperous in the region. Years passed, and Grandpa Bala grew older. His hair, now thin and wispy, glistened like silver in the sunlight, and his steps became slower, but his spirit remained as strong as ever. The villagers knew that he wouldn't be with them forever, but they couldn't imagine their lives without him. One crisp autumn day, as the leaves turned golden and began to fall, Grandpa Bala called the villagers to gather around his cottage. He knew that his time was near, and he wanted to leave them with one final blessing. The entire village came together, from the youngest child to the oldest elder. The children who had once sat on Grandpa Bala's knee were now grown, many with children of their own. The elders, who had long relied on his wisdom, looked at him with tears in their eyes, knowing that they were about to lose a dear friend. Grandpa Bala stood in the center of the crowd, his frail hands clasped together. His voice was soft but clear as he spoke. "My dear friends," he began, "I have lived a long and blessed life. I have seen many of you grow from children into fine men and women. I have witnessed your joys and sorrows, and I have shared in your dreams and fears. It has been my greatest honor to walk this path with you." He paused, looking around at the faces of those he had come to love so deeply. "I may not be here much longer, but I want you to know that my blessings will always be with you. You carry them in your hearts, in the kindness you show to one another, and in the love you give to this village. Continue to live with love and compassion, and this village will always flourish." With that, Grandpa Bala raised his hands and blessed the entire village, his voice trembling slightly with emotion. The villagers felt a warmth in their hearts, a sense of peace and contentment that they would carry with them for the rest of their lives. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Grandpa Bala quietly passed away in his sleep, a gentle smile on his face. The villagers mourned his loss, but they knew that his spirit would always be with them, watching over Riper. In the years that followed, the village continued to thrive. The banyan trees grew taller, the fields remained fertile, and the sense of community that Grandpa Bala had nurtured only grew stronger. His cottage became a place of pilgrimage, where people would come to pay their respects and remember the wise old man who had blessed their lives. And so, the legacy of Grandpa Bala lived on, not just in the stories that were told about him, but in the hearts of everyone who had ever been touched by his kindness. His blessings had woven themselves into the very fabric of Riper, ensuring that the village would remain a place of peace, prosperity, and love for generations to come.
Thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to my channel. If you want to share your story, write it down in the comments. Peace.